We can consider macroevolution to be a kind of a scaffolded process, an accumulation of microevolutions which eventually, over millions of years, led to large-scale differences between organisms. It shouldn't be surprising then that species with a common ancestor share body structures that are similar to each other. For example, the hands of a human and a possum both have fingers. We're both mammals and we both have a common evolutionary ancestor. Therefore, our hands can be considered homologous structures. Going into a bit more detail than I can draw, sometimes you can see bone structures between species that are very similar. Again, because humans, cats, whales and bats are all mammals, we can consider these species to have a common ancestor and therefore these similarities are called homologous structures. Moving along, if we see species which evolve separately but share similar structures, we call it convergent evolution. For example, birds and bats do not share a common ancestor, but they both have evolved wings. Since the structures share the same general shape and function, and the species evolve separately, we can consider it convergent evolution. The opposite to convergent evolution is divergent evolution. As the name suggests, it is the opposite of convergent evolution. Divergent evolution refers to species which share a common ancestor but evolve to have different structures. For example, at some point in the past, there may have only been one species of bird. Eventually, as microevolutions and speciation occurred, the progenitor species separated into many new species, like, for example, ducks and eagles. Since these new species evolved differently but have a common ancestor, we can refer to this as divergent evolution. To bring all this together, let's look at the duck and eagle example in a bit more detail. Considering they share an evolutionary ancestor, the wings of a duck and an eagle can be considered homologous structures. However, they both can fly, so should we consider this a type of convergent evolution? Well, if you remember back to the definition of convergent evolution, it requires that species do not share a common ancestor. And since ducks and eagles are both birds, it is not considered convergent. Let's look at another example, frogs and anteaters. Since frogs are amphibians and anteaters are mammals, it's safe to say that they do not share a common ancestor. However, both anteaters and frogs have long sticky tongues that are used to catch and eat insects. Is this an example of a homologous structure? No, because homologous structures specifically refer to those from species which share a common ancestor. Is it divergent evolution? Again, no, because divergent evolution also requires a common ancestor. Therefore, the presence of a long sticky tongue in frogs and anteaters can be considered convergent evolution.